All right. Well, hello, everybody. This is Josh Lane with the Eight Shields Institute. For those of you who don't know me, I've been a mentor with Eight Shields for quite a while, having been involved since about 2004. And this video today is a chance for me to interview Paul McDermott. Paul is the co-founder and executive director of Regenerative Roots in Alpine, Oregon. And Paul has been a participant in past iterations of our Rebuilding Nature Connected Communities program and other things that are going on. And for those of you who are considering, going into this program, this is part of our series of interviews with alumni so that you can get a sense of whether this program is right for what you're looking for and how it's making an impact in the world. So, Paul, thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. Really, really good to be here.
Yeah, great to get to connect with you today. And could you tell us a little bit about, who you are, what you're doing in the world?
Yeah, well, I am a father of two daughters and a former school teacher. And I think that led me to kind of investigating and being curious about how I wanted to educate and raise my daughters in a way that felt a little more substantial and whole than perhaps some of the traditional pathways or the contemporary pathways that a lot of kids are being asked to exist in, I guess. As my daughters became in the preschool age, my wife and I had talked about, the forest kindergarten, and we had kind of been talking about that actually since pre-birth for them, and that had been something that was of interest to us and curiosity to us, and so when they were 3 or 4, we lived in Sonoma County, California, and we hooked up with somebody that was doing a semblance of a forest kindergarten. And that person gave me Coyote's Guide to Connecting with Nature. And so after reading through that, I really kind of resonated with a lot of the ideas and thoughts and suggestions and just philosophy that kind of held that whole container. And then after kind of realizing that Sonoma County, California was not the place for us, and we moved up to kind of central western Oregon, the Willamette Valley between the Cascades and the Coast Range. We landed on a nice piece of property that offered us some creeks and some woods and just the opportunity to educate our girls outside. And so I started inviting folks down to our place to kind of spend some time just doing outside school, as it were. And it was probably a little bit heavy in science at the beginning. And I guess with my school teaching background, I thought that, that there needed to be some academic content, I guess, that really anchored things. And so I kind of tried to just invite folks to come out and learn about the water cycle or about the food chain and that type of stuff. But slowly it started to evolve. And I went to an art of mentoring up at the Wilderness Awareness School in Duvall, Washington. And that really shifted things in my head. And it was the first time I thought about nature connection versus nature education. And once I kind of had that seed, I just started playing around with that. So our program, our weekly kind of gathering started to evolve into an official program where we, really kind of tried to encourage folks to come and join into this idea of nature connection. And slowly that has grown from a 1 day a week to in kind of a 1 day a week, 3 times a month kind of, come if you will gathering to a 2 day a week, program that's really embedded in a lot of the work that you all at Eight Shields have offered, and stuff that we've just kind of learned along the way as well. Yeah.
Wow, that's great. That's such a great example of how this work can be so organic. You perceived a need for your family and you developed something, and then it, actually built steam and became a program. And I think a lot of people wonder, how do I get started if I want to do this stuff? And I think what you just said is the perfect example of letting that organically grow. So that's awesome. And, I heard a few things in there I wanted to just tease out a little bit for folks who are listening. You mentioned discovering the difference between nature information and nature connection. I was wondering if you could speak to, your understanding of what does that mean to you?
Yeah, the first thing that it comes to is just where I feel it in my body. Nature information or nature education, I feel in my head, and it's great. It's a lot of good stuff. It's love to. It's great to hear about why cycles work and what the names of plants are, in this very didactic kind of informative way. But nature connection hits me in the heart or the full body, and it fills me up to where then if I want to go to my head, I can go to my head. But if I want to stay in my heart or my body, I can stay in my heart or my body, and I can just lay in the grass and just feel and be a part of and connected to nature. And so I think without offering any sort of hierarchy in it, I think the nature information is if we offer nature connection, folks can go to nature information or nature education, and they can go other places. But if, so it's further down the line, I guess, for me.
What impact have you seen of that connective approach on your children, on the youth that you work with?
Well, just confidence, strength, sense of self. People throw out the terms of true self versus survival self, and that true self really comes out. With my daughters, it's I feel like this is what they've been offered pretty much their whole life, and so I feel like they feel heard, they feel seen, and they have a sense of who they are and where they want to be, and so looking at them and then looking at kids who come into our program and may feel a little bit unseen or unheard, and just kind of part of the machine, as it were. And when they drop in, they become who they are. They become seen. They become heard by everyone, by the community, by their friends, by the other adults. One of the interesting things about our program was that we were 25, 30 minutes outside of Corvallis, Oregon. And so for parents to drive, and we started with a 2.5 hour session a day. And so for parents to drive down, drop off their child, and then drive home, it's like, make a quick cup of coffee and then drive back down and pick them up again. And so we ended up just inviting parents to stay. And so it became this kid and parent, session, if you will, where everyone worked together. And so it's really evolved from that. And so it's not even just the kids that you see dropping in, you see the adults dropping in. And adults, and it's kind of the fun. I laugh and call it sleight of hand that, we advertise to your child, and, but what we're really working on is the adults. And so, but it's a joke. We're working on everybody. We're working with everybody. So
now, tracing your trajectory, I heard you say, okay, you picked up Coyote's Guide, you heard about that from a friend, and eventually went to an art of mentoring and got inspired. And then what programs did you go through with Eight Shields so far after that?
Yeah. So, after the art of mentoring in Duval, it just, it struck something and I wanted more. And so I went on to Eight Shields website and was like, what can I go to? Well, I want to go to another one of these. And I went to a music and storytelling in nature weekend in Santa Cruz. And, and again, it's like, really, the weekend's over. I want more of this. And that was great. I learned about catching stories there. Catching songs, which is just, that's just a foundation of catching so many things. That, there's not just songs to be caught. There's ideas and inspirations and whatever you can imagine can be caught in this kind of container of nature, and how it opens us up to that accessibility of catching things. And so after that weekend, again, I wanted more. And there was at the time an Eight Shields Portland PDX thing going on, but that just kind of ended as I started getting a greater taste for this. They kind of stopped doing their programs. And so again, searching for how do I get more of this, I came into the Art of Mentoring Leadership program, the online class. And so I started that. And that was a year that I did it, or 9 months, I guess. And that was, that was incredible for the informational side. Well, for both, but I needed some groundwork. I needed some language to put to express what I was experiencing. And I think I think for so many of us, we have these feelings and understandings, and that's again that heart body kind of recognition. We have these things happening in our bodies, but we don't have labels and we don't have the language to express what we're feeling and what we think we're understanding. And so that course really did that for me. The Acorn Leaders Toolkit, just walking me around the whole wheel, just gave me language. And so from there, again, okay, I'm still growing. My program is still growing. And then I went into the Village Builders program and did, I'm finishing up, for the last year I've been doing that. And that again just takes me deeper and really has allowed me to see myself as a village builder, something I never would have put language to. And that then takes me, how do I build my program and how do I build this to the community and offer it to folks, in my local community and folks that I want to interact with, and et cetera. So.
Wow, that's awesome. Thinking about Art of Mentoring Leadership, so just for those who are watching this, that was our earlier incarnation of Rebuilding Nature-Connected Communities. So the same program, different name. So you got some informational pieces in there that supported, how to implement and things like that. Curious, if you look back to that, kind of going through that or just coming out of that experience, what are some tangible things you were able to implement for yourself and for your community that you got out of that experience?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's the language to connect my heart and mind. I feel that growing up, I went out into nature and I would have these really awesome experiences. Across the street from me, there was a park with some, a small forest of, East Coast kind of neighborhood thing. And I would go out and I remember, this little creek and just spending time by this little creek and just being me. I mean, it's, 40 years ago and I still remember this scene. And and so throughout my life, how I was always kind of calmed by or taken to nature. And when I was a public school teacher, I would take kids, we had a hiking club and a camping club, right? And we would go out and we would do these things, and it was always good and always fun, and everyone came back with smiles. And so then when I took the course, it gave me language and gave me an understanding of what was going on. The idea that we are, wired for this, that we are all, ancestors of nature-connected communities, and that, I am fundamentally wired neurologically and physiologically to respond to what nature offers me, I think is the biggest connective point that I was offered. And so then with that language, I can go deeper, and with labels and framing and just kind of this kind of encouragement through others' experiences and the stories that are just, I mean, John is the main storyteller in these, but, I've heard stories from you, Josh. I've heard stories from other folks on, recordings, on live, on Village Talk. And so with all of these stories kind of together, it just, it becomes a possibility for myself to be connected in this deep nature way. And so, looking back to the time that I took kids from Oakland, California, out into those redwoods that you spoke about earlier, why did they feel the stoke the way they did? And I really wish I did have had I had the language then to make that articulative connection. I feel like I could have taken it deeper. And so now I feel like I have that ability, or at least that emerging ability to really tease things out a little more and get people to go a little bit deeper with themselves as well as myself. Yeah. So.
That's awesome. And that self journey is so important. That's something we've really seen over the years. And you spoke to that about now how you're having the parents drop in too. And it's not just, about having the kids get the nature connection, but the value of the parents also getting that. And even for ourselves as facilitators, can we drop into that space, not just be in our head, but really drop into that space of connection and role model that. So that's awesome, that you've got that going on.
Yeah.
I'm curious if there's any, just kind of wrapping up, if there's any advice you would give to folks out there who are, on a similar trajectory in their own path, thinking about how they can get started with all this for themselves or for their community. What advice would you give them, knowing what you know now?
Yeah, I mean, I think the advice would be just to be open to it. And so absolutely, if someone is able to become a part of these programs, to share the community, the kind of the global community of nature connection, I think that is absolutely a wonderful beginning. If that is not accessible for whatever reason, I think just being open and to go out and listen to one's own body. So when you're sitting in a park and when you are feeling, just the goodness within you, know that it's because that you are connected to nature, that you are a part of that, and so follow those strings, or those threads to strings, etc., and follow those, and because it's tangible, it's real, it's there. So yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. So get out there and find that connection, realize it's there already. So Paul, thank you so much for the time today, and your website address for folks who want to see what you're up to. What is that?
Yeah, we're at regenerativerootscommunity.org, and we offer a 2-day-a-week nature connection mentoring program for basically homeschool families, because we do it during the time of we do it during weekdays. And yeah, and we also just, I guess I'll add, we just had our first Exploring the Art of Mentoring weekend workshop just a few weeks ago. And so we're going to be working towards next summer for our full week-long Art of Mentoring in the Willamette Valley. And so that's what we're working towards. And again, it's those threads to strings to cords to ropes. And so it's there and it happens. But yeah, we're regenerative-roots-community.org.
Awesome. Well, I so appreciate the time to connect with you today. And yeah, I'm sure this will be inspiring for a lot of folks who are, on their own journey right now and wondering about steps ahead. So thank you for sharing your experience today. And for those who are interested in our Rebuilding Nature Connected Communities 9-month immersion training, you can go to 8shields.org and go to the mentoring tab, and you'll see a link to that. So check that out if you're feeling called to it. And thanks again, Paul. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Josh.